What's the creepiest experience in your life? The time I woke up to find an intruder in my bedroom. Standing beside my bed looking down at me. I chased him out and wasn't physically harmed, but the police were certain that, despite him taking a number of things, I was actually the real reason he broke in, and that waking up when I did saved me from great or worse because it startled him. Woke up not being able to breathe and realized there was a hand over my mouth. Then I felt a sharp knife in my back and heard someone whispering in my left ear, "Shut up. Shut up. Shut up." A guy had climbed in my New York apartment and wanted to get everything he could. He thought I had a roommate in my loft above. But I didn't. We were alone. Somehow. Once I was completely awake and not paralyzed with fear, which miraculously only took a couple seconds, I was able to act very calm. I acted like this happens every day, that someone climbs in my window at 5 AM. In the middle of his visit, his energy turned and I could tell he was considering raping me. I had a very bizarre experience of being present in my body and feeling like I was high up on my ceiling looking down at myself. Once I had that very bizarre big picture view somehow, even though this guy was strung out on drugs and had a knife, I felt like I would be okay and I was able to talk him out of the grape. I was actually very calm and collected all morning. Through the experience. Through the cop visit. And even through the guy calling me, after the cops had left, to threaten my life, once he found out the ATM card code I had given him was wrong. I even went to my morning workout. I wanted to get out of the apartment and thought a workout would help shift my energy. In the middle of the workout I sort of collapsed. As the adrenaline wore off. Even though I was calm, cool, and collected, that was one hell of a scary event. On my old street, the boy who lived across the street from me told me he would stare at my window at night. One evening, he came inside my house and was standing at the bottom of the stairs. A few years ago, I was home alone with my sister. I was 14, she was 13, and my parents and siblings went out for 6 hours. Me and my sister were sitting at the TV watching Dr. Phil and we hear a lock. All our doors were locked, so I was confused. I checked the house and found nothing. The next night I'm in my room walking around in booty shorts and a sports bra. I hear a click sound. I thought nothing of it and laid on my bed that faced the window and went on my phone. I hear another click. I put on a t-shirt and I go to my window and I slam on it. A guy with a ducking camera was hiding and he bolted. I screamed for my dad and he realized what happened and he went after the guy and the dude was caught. Turns out he had multiple pics of me over the course of 2 months of me sleeping, showering, and changing, along with multiple pics of other underage girls. So of course he got arrested. That was by far the creepiest experience. I'm 17 now and I still get a pit in my stomach when I tell the story and I always feel watched. I'm working midnight shift and can watch movies most nights. Last night I'm watching the movie 1408. The movie about the haunted hotel room. I'm at the part of the movie when some sketchy shit happened. The fax machine phone in my office starts ringing at almost the same time the phone on the movie rings. When I answer the fax machine phone, all I get is dial tone. Then a fax comes in and until I read what was on the fax I was sheeting bricks. I enjoy watching horror movies on these shifts, makes work more exciting. 11 or 12 years old. I was terrified of the dark. Shared a room with my sister and she wouldn't let me keep my night light on all night. One night she was out and I woke up in the middle of the night with this terrible anxiety. I told myself nothing is there. Nothing is there as I slowly turned in my bed and flipped on the light, and there was a guy kneeling by my bed and touching me. A couple times. I've been home alone and seen a woman walk into my brother's bedroom. It's a kind of ongoing thing. She seems to be of a rich background. She wears a sort of nightgown with puff sleeves that come back in at the wrist. Her hair is always very neat. But I've only ever just caught her going into my brother's room. A couple months back, I saw her as I was coming out my bedroom, leave my parents' bedroom and walk into my brother's bedroom. She has never noticed me. nor does her presence make me feel unsafe. It's just confusing as to why she never comes to my room. When I was 7 years old, I was homesick and my mom was there to take care of me. She went out to buy some breakfast and left me alone at home with our home phone and her number in case something happened. I was sitting in our living room playing Bakugan on my Xbox 360 when I heard very heavy footsteps from the stairs about 5-6 meters to my right. I didn't think much of it, assuming my mom had come home, even though I hadn't heard anyone open or close the door. It's very loud. There were these glass windows that you could see parts of the stairs from our living room. When someone walked up or down, you would always see them. The steps got louder and louder, as they should, but it sounded like it was a very large and heavy person, even larger than my dad, who was at work at the time. I couldn't see anyone through the glass, and when it got to the top of the stairs the sound stopped. Like something was standing there, looking at me, and I suddenly felt really sick. Like very sick. Then I heard the steps again and they faded away the further down they got. That's when I started to cry and shake like I've never done before. I grabbed the phone and called my mom. She hurried home when she heard me sobbing on the phone under my blanket. Never had a scary experience since. Or at least as scary. I live in Sweden, and now later on when I asked my dad about the history of our house, he said that it was an old police station in the 1940s. Others in my house now, like my stepmom, stepsister, and even my mom, when I ask her about it, have all had creepy experiences and are convinced that there is someone else in there. Something else. My dad said that it was the old wooden steps creaking, but it's not possible for them to do it one by one. That consistently and loud. Up and down. I don't really believe in ghosts, but I still can't explain what happened. When I was really little, between 2 and 3 judging by what house this took place in, I turned in my bed and saw my father laying in a plank position. He was balanced perfectly on top of the flimsy plastic safety rail. My father is a disabled veteran, and at the time he could barely walk without a cane. But he was just laying there, perfectly balanced, on an inch-thick plastic rail. His arms were rigid against his side. His eyes were open and staring up, and his mouth was gaping. I got freaked out, so I got out of bed and his eyes shifted and looked at me while the rest of him was completely still. I ran into my parents' room, where my father was asleep in bed. I'm convinced this was sleep paralysis at a young age. Several other events have happened throughout my life, and I still get hypnagogic auditory hallucinations when falling asleep each night. I had 2 stories but had to post them separately as the other was long. A few years back I was walking in a city with my mum and little sister. I was about 12 and my sister 5, I think. Everything was fine. Birds were chirping and kids were playing and people were just shopping, having a great day, but then all of a sudden mum grabs my little sister and tells me to run in the direction we just came. I didn't have a clue as to what was going on, but I listened to her and ran. She then stopped and told another mum with 2 small kids that something was coming, but I didn't hear what the something was. I couldn't even see or hear anything but the birds, kids playing and people shopping. The other mum joined us and we all hurried into a computer shop. About 5 minutes later a very large group of people rioting came walking past. They were shouting, swearing, and there were things being thrown about. Cars were also being smashed. My sister was crying her eyes out and I remember my mum trying to keep her quiet. The shop owner gave her a balloon which calmed her, and then he locked the door and turned the lights out. It lasted for 20 minutes, but in those 20 minutes it's like the whole city went dark. All I could hear and see through the door was the riot, nothing else. We waited about 20 minutes after it had passed just in case they came back, and then mum took us home. There were many incidents happened at one of our rented flats back when I was a teen. My sister and I were babysitting our cousin's kids, aged 10, 6 and 3 respectively. The youngest was one of the brightest and the most polite kid you could ever meet. So, there we were getting ready for bed and he asked for some water. I lifted him up, took him to the table outside the kitchen. Now, we always had the window open in there, and this window took 3/4 of the wall from where we both were standing sitting. That window was to my right in the kitchen. It was almost sunset. The kid was sipping water. I was looking at his face. Maybe talking about something I don't remember what. He has ridiculously long and beautiful eyelashes, so I often caught myself looking at them. I saw his eyes move towards the window and becoming wide. His face lost color. All of this happened in a split second and he said, "That black man." I looked towards the window. Of course there was no one. We lived on the second floor. I inquired about what did he just say. His face still horrified, eyes never leaving the window. The black man tried to smash the window with his axe. He couldn't and ran away to the other building, the one adjacent to ours. I soothed him by saying along the line of, "He got nothing to worry about. We are all here with him." There was no way he could make this up. He never lied. I am very strong-nerved and rarely get rattled, but this shook me good enough that I couldn't sleep that whole night. We had a peeping Tom that would secretively work his way around neighborhood properties at night. He held a flashlight and coffee can in his hands. People would notice him looking in bedroom windows and lingering there. When someone would call him out on it, he'd say, "I'm a fisherman, out looking for night crawlers." When finally caught by the police, the peeping Tom became known as the night crawler. A few months later, he was apprehended again, looking in his favorite house with attractive females' bedroom windows while pretending to be grabbing worms for the next day's fishing. Not one incident, but about 100. For about a 3-year span. I would have a light bulb burn out over my head about once a week. Not turn off, but completely burn out. It even happened twice on one drive home about 7 miles apart. I have witnesses of as many as 5 bulbs burning out over my head in one night. A spider on my morning wood. Sleep paralysis will duck you up for life. Saw a demon. Scared the shit out of me. Wasn't even big. Size of a cat. Hollywood couldn't create a creepier looking creature though. One time I woke up to a spider the size of my hand and it was right near my door, so it took a bit to have the courage to go out. I slept with it in my room. Basically it was watching me. When I used to live in Japan I always felt safe. But there was this incident one night I can't shake out of my mind. Was waiting for a friend around this apartment building, just chilling, when I saw just a regular guy smoking a few feet away from me. Not weird about that. So I'm just on my phone when I feel a presence. Look up. Then it's that guy wearing a suit. Pants pulled down and touching himself furiously right in front of my face. I jumped up and dropped my phone between his legs, trying to push him away to run when he grabs my arm. Luckily another man nearby saw this and scared him away. Terrified of what could have happened if that man didn't interfere. When I was like 7 or 8 years old I was at a pool with some guys I knew. One of them got aggressive rather quickly and he was at the time like 10 centimeters taller than me and easily stronger. So we decided to throw one of those toys that you throw in the water and then dive for them. We raced there and I was a split second faster and he got angry because he thought I ripped it out of his hand. He tried to drown me and pushed my head down multiple times before keeping me underwater. I legit thought I was going to drown. I had nightmares about drowning for multiple years after that. Came home from a night out. Not completely wasted but a bit dizzy from drinks. It was in the suburbs of a small town. In the dead of night. So for entire 20 minutes walk I wouldn't encounter any human. Was pretty used to it since I took same road for years. But anyway. Was returning home in this particular night and I hear chain sounds. Yes. F-king chain sounds. Like in horror movies. In the dead of night. All alone. So I start walking faster. And I see where the sounds are coming. On the same side way as me it was a dog coming from the opposite direction. Like a massive black dog with a 2 meters chain tied to his neck. I instantly went to the other side of the road. Wasn't a large road. And when we passed near each other I was shaking to the point I could have a heart attack. I was like 16 and not a 2-foot guy. So that could have literally tore me apart before anyone could come and help me.